everybody, welcome back to the Flannel Channel. I'm Philip, I'm glad you're here. I am passionate about old trucks that have a story to tell. And this 1986 Peterbilt 359 is a perfect example of that. It's owned by my buddies, Kyle and Tyler Lind. And they have hired me today to do a little bit of hand-painted lettering and some pinstriping on this truck that they just recently purchased. And instead of having vinyl on it, they want this truck to look like it's had hand-painted lettering on it for a long time, but still be functional because they plan on actually using and working this truck, which I think is awesome. So instead of this being an episode where it's tutorial style, where I'm showing you every single step, let me just kind of introduce you to the machine, and then we'll just go through the steps along the way, and hopefully you dig it. I'm excited. Let's do this. Alright, so I'm going to start off the video just by saying I don't know a lot about this truck, and so it's more so just showing you what I'm working on and working with. Like I mentioned, the brothers haven't had this real long, but it is a local Minnesota truck. I believe it was used probably for some flatbed, some heavy haul, and there are some pieces that you'll see that are either missing or have come off, or there's some damage and things like that. Don't worry, this is a work in progress. And so they're slowly building up to get it ready for the Big Iron Classic in Casson, Minnesota. And they have some parts on order, some pieces that they've accumulated, and I think that's pretty awesome. You'll see my favorite part of this whole truck. It's got that Corvette dash we all love so much. So I'll be doing a little bit of work on that as well. But just wanted to give you guys a quick look at it. It is mechanical cat in there with Jake's. I think it's super cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna give you all the specs on it because I honestly don't know all the specs, like wheelbase and transmission and stuff like that. But it's here in the shop. I need to get busy because daylight's gonna get away from me if I don't get hauling on this thing. So there it is. This vinyl is going to stay on the truck because this has been a part of this Peterbilt its whole life. And so I'm gonna use these colors and bring them back onto the doors for the DOT, for the Lynn Brothers lettering, and then we're also gonna bring it into the dash as well. So, all right, here we go. All right, just kind of pick at the edge, and because it's higher quality vinyl and it hasn't been on there all that long, it's gonna come off real nice, which is excellent. That's awesome. Same here. Love it. So, vinyl guys, I appreciate your artistic flair and what you guys can accomplish, and I love it when you guys use quality that doesn't fade and doesn't shrink too much, and it's easier to come off because it has good adhesive. So nice work. Okay, let's get the other side and then we'll prep our surface. All right, just some simple acetone. Gonna do what we needed to do. Just gonna get the adhesive off and any waxes or whatever's on our door, get that off as well. You don't want to get too carried away. You don't want to be hard on that paint, but I will say old paint tends to hold up better than some of the new paint that's still really soft. So I like this a lot. I love working on old doors. I will say also that this side on the passenger, because we have the small window here, it might make a difference a little bit in my layout of the lettering and things like that. But don't worry, I'm gonna make it look as much the same and symmetrical side to side as I possibly can. There we go. All right, I'm gonna finish it with a little bit of glass cleaner and a microfiber, and we're ready. Let me take a quick second and introduce you to one of my favorite tools that I use in my arsenal. This is a digital projector, and it uses a Bluetooth signal from my phone, and I can project any image up onto pretty much any flat surface, okay? And so what I use this thing for is taking a design that I've come up with digitally and allowing me to throw it up against the side of the truck, and I can put my lettering exactly where I want it. Now, what I used to do before I had this tool is I used to draw out a paper pattern, and I would put the pattern up on the side of the truck, and I would have holes in the paper and then use a pounce pad with chalk. Now that's the way it was done for, a couple hundred years, and it works great. I actually pride myself in the fact of doing it the old school way. This is an amazing time saver because it's still my artwork, it's still my design that I came up with, but I can change so many factors about it, up, down, in and out. I can change the contrast and the sharpness of the image, and it was definitely worth a few $100s to buy that thing. It doesn't have to be used Bluetooth, but that's the way I prefer to use it so that I can have all that information on my phone. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be using today instead of using the paper pattern. So speeds things up. It's good for me because that frees up some more of my time, and the customers like it because it's less time that they have to pay me to do the job. So, all right, that's what I'm going to work on next, is getting my image done up on the truck. And I'm going to use some of these pencils right here that you might have heard of, a grease pencil. This is similar, but this is actually more of like a soap or a wax, and it wipes off just a little bit of glass cleaner, something like that. And I have different colors, black, red, white. And so I'm gonna put that up there and kind of play with my layout. Now I have to do a lot of measuring on the doors, making sure that my borders are proper and height. So I'm gonna find center, up and down and left and right, things like that. So that's the next step. There we go. Now we have all of our lines exactly where we want them. I have my DOT number measured out to be the proper size because that is the law. And time to mix up some paint. Next thing I'm gonna do is reach inside here, and I'm gonna be putting the names on this part of the dash. And convenient for me, that just comes right off. So I'm gonna utilize my projector again just to make sure that I can fit all the names exactly where I want them and project them onto here so that I have the same style and shape of letters as the outside of the truck. And I'm gonna be very gentle on the prep of this surface, just glass cleaner. You don't wanna use anything too harsh because that wood grain will peel off and cause you a lot of problems. So microfiber, get it clean, but no harsh chemicals on this stuff. We don't want that peeling off. Just like that, with that pencil I was showing you. Now I know exactly where I want to paint those names. This is part of my process. I'm just using the pencil and sketching out some ideas. Just some freehand places that the brush could go, but I'm not entirely committed to it. So again, this is simply to give myself something to follow, and just kind of have to let it happen in the moment. But when I give myself some lines, I'm a little less afraid to just take it where it wants to go. And sometimes I'm really happy with something, and then other times I stand back and I look at it and go, no, that's not it. Change it up, wipe it off, start over. But the pencil helps me a lot, get the creativity going, and then transfer it over to paint and actually make it happen. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, just some sketches. Quick rundown of what I like to use. Alpha Enamels paint. I'm mixing up a little bit of their metallic silver, a little bit of alpha gray, and dark red for my other color. Reason being, like I said earlier, I'm trying to match this color vinyl, and I like that together. It looks pretty good. But just the silver metallic by itself can tend to be difficult to deal with, and to dull it and darken it just a little bit, I'm mixing in some gray. I also use a little bit of high temp reducer. I could be using low temp. It's a beautiful day out here today. For brushes, I like MAC brushes. These are the Mr. Oz signature. And I have 3 different sizes that I use, 4, 6, and 8. So we'll get that mixed up a little bit. And for pinstriping, I prefer also MAC brush again. Not a sponsor of mine, but that is my favorite go-to, the 00. Yep. All right, let's get to it. Like I mentioned earlier, I really wanted this lettering to look aged and weathered, like it has patina like the rest of the truck. And so what I'm doing here is I purposely mixed my paint a little bit on the thin side. I'm doing kind of a dry brush, and then after it's had a little bit of time to dry, I'm going back over it with a lint-free cloth and wiping a little bit of that paint away. And that's just kind of speeding up the process of making this paint look like it's been on there for years and years and years out in the hot sun. So the paint itself doesn't have a lot of gloss to it, and it is on the thin side so that you can see the brush strokes through it, and you can start to see some of the black showing up through the paint again. So that's all on purpose, and I could always go back now that the paint has fully dried, and I could sand at it a little bit more with a Scotch-Brite or things like that. But at the same time, it's easy to overdo it and to try too hard to make it look weathered. So, you know, it's a little bit of a learning process. Sometimes you go back and you touch things up, but it's a really fun process to go through to try and make something that's new look old again. And I really enjoy it. It's super fun. Not that I'm a truck historian or a professional sign painter, because I am not. But I know enough of the history of these trucks that would have been lettered at a truck stop in the 80s, in the 70s, things like that. It would have happened maybe over a weekend like this, or just, you know, in a matter of a few hours, an independent owner-operator would have his truck refueled, maybe washed, he'd park for the night, and he could have his truck lettered or pinstriped as well. He could get polished. This is bright work, the stainless and the aluminum. And maybe it would be a different artist, 2 or 3 different places on the truck. Sometimes maybe he had his letters and his DOT number done in one part of the country, and then somewhere else, you know, if he was down south or out west or something like that, he would find a pinstriper that was working, and he would get some more work done. Or maybe he would continue to go back to the same artist over and over again, and continue to have more and more work done on his truck. And when you start to think about hand-painted lettering and pinstriping, almost similar to like tattoo artists and getting tattoo work done. If you're working on a big piece on your arm or on your back or your chest or something like that, getting your truck pinstriped or lettered can very much be the same. And that's part of what I love about it, because it's the story of the machine. And our tattoos are personal, and they tell a story, and The tattoos on a truck like this also tell a story. So that's part of why I geek out about it. Every artist had his own style, and many sign painters, going back 100 years, 200 years, they would have an apprentice that worked in the shop. And the apprentice would learn from the master all the trade secrets. Very similar to how tattoo artists also have masters and apprentices. That being said, I have to consider myself maybe informally taught by other art teachers that were not specifically sign painters. Primarily taught by my mom, who was an art teacher and a professional artist, and so I've learned a lot from her. But I also, when it comes to sign painting and things like this, I've learned a lot from YouTube, just like what you're watching right now. And so practice is a real big part of it. And a number of master artists and sign writers and painters have made how-to videos and really helpful series or books or things like that that have helped me a lot in trying to learn some of what they do. And so anyway, that's a little bit of my backstory, and I tend to talk too much in my own videos, so forgive me if I get too chatty. But this dark, it's kind of a barn red that I'm using for the drop shadow. It would be a lot brighter of a red if I was on a light background like white or, you know, some color like that. It would really make the red jump. But because I'm going over black, it's a little bit more muted, and I actually kind of like it that way because, again, it gives it a little bit more of the vintage and period correct look. If I used colors that were not muted, but colors that were very bright and jumped off the surface of this truck, it just really wouldn't look right. You know, if you're using really bright, extreme colors, just, it's too much. And so you want to kind of stick with the proper time period of the truck. And you also want to make your customer happy. There has been times that I've maybe talked to a truck owner and they had one idea and I had a very different idea of what we were after. And we come to an agreement, because ultimately it's that individual's machine and they have something specific in their mind and you want to make them happy. So there's also been work that I have turned down and turned away and said, I don't know if I'm the right artist for you. And I think that's the right move sometimes, just to bow out and say, I'm going to refer you to someone else that can make your vision a reality, but I don't think that I'm the right fit for the project you have in mind. And so I've learned that that's usually the best route to take, instead of committing to do something that I later on kind of regret. Really, I only do this because it's fun. Don't do this to get rich, don't do this to get famous. You do this because it's a passion and a love, and it's something that even if I didn't have people on a wait list that want me to do this work for them, I would be doing this kind of thing anyway on my own, and I would still be taking photos and videos of it, because this is a lost thing. So many trucks go to vinyl, and I get it. I don't have a hatred of vinyl. In the type of political climate, in the type of, how would you say it? The type of economic climate that we live in, most drivers of commercial vehicles don't own their machines, and most are owned by a fleet, and the fleet needs to be able to keep things cheap and be able to change it. And so hand painted lettering and pinstriping is just not in the game plan at all for many drivers. And so then it becomes something that you would do on a personal vehicle, a motorcycle, maybe something that you own yourself, or the Lynn brothers. These guys, owner-operators, are less and less common all the time. And so, therefore, hand-painted lettering on a trucker's rig is less common, but we love to see it, and it is still around. I love that. And if you're still watching the video, that means you probably still love it too. So thanks for sticking with me. The reason that I decided to do this section regular speed and not do time lapse is because I've had a number of folks tell me that they really enjoy just watching the paint go on the door and not be only time lapses. So there you go. If I'm talking too much and getting a little bit irritating, you can certainly mute or fast forward. I totally get it. But this is the type of thing that if you were standing here in the shop with me right now, we would be just talking just like this over my shoulder. And it doesn't bother me at all when I'm at truck shows or things like that for folks to stand around and visit with me and talk. As long as I can kind of stay on task, it's totally cool with me. Gets a little bit tricky over here all the way on the right hand side because my brush starts to hit the heat shield of the stack. So I have to get a little bit different angle sometimes, but nothing we can't handle. No big deal. All right, stay with me. We got just a little bit more left on this R and then an S, and we'll move on. I think the letter S is probably my favorite letter to paint, just because you get to make the brush do some really fun movements, and you twirl and squish and mush the brush in fun ways, and the end result is really fun to see, you know, on the letter S. So most people don't have a favorite letter, but I do. It's letter S. Just because it's fun to paint. All right, I'm gonna get a little bit more red in my cup down here on my palette. I'm gonna finish the word services, and then we move on to doing some pinstriping on the dash. Here we go, getting a little bit more red detail on that panel there. And I started with just a few simple lines up here on the dash. I'm gonna switch over and do some silver now. And probably go back to red and back to silver, back and forth, and add some more details. It's tough for me to film well. It is dark inside the cab, and so I'll try and find a spot to set the camera down and actually do some right on camera here, but give it a shot. Final step, little tiny signature right down here. And then I'll give you a quick look around on the inside of the dash. That's all finished up too. So yeah, it's starting to get a little bit dark out. I need to pull this thing outside and go home and see the family. So. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for coming along with me. And hey, I love doing this kind of stuff. I totally geek out on hand-painted lettering and pinstriping. I appreciate you supporting me and supporting a dying art. So let's keep it going, and truly appreciate each one of you. I don't see the comments, but if you want to interact with me directly, I'm over at Instagram. It's at @flannel_Philip. I also have merch available. That's at GoShineOn.com if you want to support the channel and some of the things that we're doing. So anyway, thanks again to the Lynn brothers. Those guys are awesome. I appreciate them for being patient because I've had a long wait list. And so these guys are awesome. Working class folks, just doing the real deal out there. And so, hey, you guys rock. Thank you for supporting the channel, everybody. Peace and grease.